The day I was diagnosed with late-stage cancer, I dreamt I was the lost love in a tragic novel whose early demise haunts the story. My childhood sweetheart, Ethan Hartley, was nagging at me. "Luna, let's go for Korean fried chicken." I chuckled lightly. "Let's try something different. How about Japanese cuisine?" The novel's female lead couldn't handle spicy food, but to become more like me after being taken under Ethan Hartley's wing, she braved the heat daily, ultimately suffering from a stomach ailment. Knowing my days were numbered, I was even less willing to bring misfortune to others because of me. Inside the Japanese restaurant, it was just Ethan and me, with a full spread of appetizing dishes laid out before us. I ate slowly, savoring every bite with a slight smile. Japanese cuisine even tastes better than Korean fried chicken. People should always try new things to find better ones. Ethan, skilled in reading between the lines, immediately sensed something was off. In a low voice, he asked, "Luna, what's wrong?" I smiled wryly and shook my head, saying it was nothing, while keeping the symptoms of my late-stage cancer to myself. After all, I wouldn't live long. There was no need to worry others. Outside, a girl in thin clothes, holding a basket of flowers, her little face stiff with cold, caught my eye with her pitiful sight. To my great surprise, she bore a striking resemblance to me, as if we were carved from the same mold. This must be the female lead in my dream, I thought, recalling the heavily made-up woman from my dream and finding it hard to associate the two images. Stepping out of the Japanese restaurant, I smiled at her. Seeing how much we resemble each other must mean we're fated. I can't finish all the food I ordered and hate to see it go to waste. Come on in and help me finish it, and I'll buy the rest of your flowers. I gestured toward the lavishly decorated Japanese restaurant, and her eyes showed a mix of timidity and brightness. Holding her hand, I led her in and introduced her to Ethan, then helped her with the food. After gobbling down the meal, she skillfully crafted 2 flower bracelets from the wildflowers in her basket and handed them to me. "Pretty sister, these flowers are for you." I took the bracelets and asked softly, "Why are you out here in the cold selling flowers all alone?" The girl looked embarrassed. "My name is Charlotte Dodge, and I was admitted to the finance department at Duke University. My mom said we were short of money and that getting educated was useless. She kept my ID card and forced me to drop out and work. Duke University has preferences for honor students, only $1,000 a semester. I came out to sell flowers to earn my tuition." She set down her chopsticks and poured out her worries. She had tried to find work, but without an ID card and appearing weak, shops and factories wouldn't hire her. With no other options, she resorted to selling wildflowers from her family's fields. In my dream, the memories of Charlotte Dodge were filled with heavy makeup, drifting into the wrong path, taken care of by Ethan Hartley after losing his lost love, enduring one hardship after another, eventually coming together in love and harmony. Educational attainment is low, shallow insights, toads lusting after a swan's meat, was how Ethan's friends described Charlotte Dodge. I had not anticipated that Charlotte, once an excellent student, had been forced to drop out. I pulled out a check from my bag and waved it. "An honor student from Duke's finance department. If you graduate and come work for Carter Corp and never resign, I'll give you this $100,000 as an advance." Charlotte Dodge was overjoyed and incoherent. I definitely won't resign. I'll work for Carter Corp." I filled out the check, gave her my contact information, and sent her an electronic contract to sign before letting her go. Ethan Hartley, who had been silent the whole time, finally spoke up. "Carter Corp doesn't lack talent, Luna. You're just too kind." I smiled without saying a word. If the female lead has a high degree, she won't be laughed at for being with Ethan Hartley in the future. With Charlotte Dodge under Carter Corp's wing, I don't have to worry about its future development. Setting aside my impending death, everything else is pretty good. The entrance to Duke University was crowded. Today was Charlotte's enrollment day, and also the day I, as a distinguished alumna, was invited to speak on stage. Dressed in a black swan gown, stepping out of a luxury car with an ice-cold complexion and a gentle demeanor, I instantly drew the gazes of the crowd. Suddenly, I heard a shrewish shouting. "Charlotte Dodge, you're getting ahead of yourself, aren't you? Running off to school, thinking you can forget about your parents? Not going to support your brother anymore?" The voice darkened my eyes and furrowed my brows, and I looked towards the source amidst the throng of people. I made my way through the crowd and saw Charlotte, tear-streaked and pleading. She was being berated by a plain-looking woman, gripping Charlotte's hair. "I let you go to high school because it's compulsory education, not for you to go to college, to be wild and forget about your family." The woman's words treated Charlotte as nothing more than a tool. Charlotte, in pain yet still speaking softly, begged, "Mom, please go back, all right? I promise after I finish college I will help support our family." Bystanders couldn't stand to watch any longer and began to speak up in Charlotte's defense. However, the woman was deaf to reason and was about to slap Charlotte when I stepped in, firmly seizing her raised hand. Girls should be cherished like treasures, not used as tools to make money. My voice lost its usual gentleness, becoming somewhat harsh, startling the woman for a moment. Seeing my fine dress, she kept apologizing with a smile. "Miss, don't meddle in our family affairs. It's Charlotte, this shameless person who stopped caring about our family once she got money for college." Hearing her mother vilify her like this, Charlotte showed no surprise, obviously accustomed to it. She simply argued, "Mom, I only have 100,000 in total. I gave 80,000 to the family. Is that enough for you to go back?" A tremble ran through me from behind. I quietly took Charlotte's delicate hand to reassure her not to be afraid. Turning to the woman, I smiled and said, "The money for Charlotte's college tuition came from me. After graduation, she will work directly for Carter Corp with an annual salary of $1 million and a limitless future." Upon hearing this, the woman's murky eyes immediately shone with intense light, and she quickly laughed obsequiously. Had I known about the $1 million salary, I would have supported her going to college. As she appeared ready to walk away content, I grabbed Charlotte, who was still in shock, and blocked the woman's path. "Don't be in such a hurry to leave." I smiled amiably, then made a quick call to my assistant. In no time, the assistant came over carrying a black leather bag. I took out a bundle of 100,000 in cash and smashed it into the woman's face. "Apologize to Charlotte, and it's all yours." The woman was hit hard, her face swelling red, yet still kept smiling eagerly, kneeling down to apologize sincerely to Charlotte. I said coldly, "The contract I signed with Charlotte states that her future salary cannot go to her family, otherwise she'll be fired immediately." This meant that the woman wouldn't get a cent of Charlotte's salary. Her eyes visibly darkened. I patted the black leather bag and continued, "But if you transfer Charlotte's custody to me now, this money is all yours." The woman eagerly agreed 3 times, and after signing the contract, I overturned the leather bag onto her head, the thick red bills flying down around her. Blood appeared on her head from the impact, yet she didn't move. I then grabbed her hair and tugged hard. "Lay a hand on our Charlotte again, and this is what you get." The campus forum exploded with discussions about the gentle goddess who angrily threw $1 million yuan for a pitiful girl. The gentle goddess was me, and the pitiful girl was Charlotte Dodge. Seeing this post, our family doctor was treating Charlotte's scalp wound. I leaned back on the sofa, watching Charlotte, her eyes slightly red and as adorable as a little rabbit. Charlotte said gratefully, "Sister, the money you gave to my mom today, I will repay you someday." I shook my head. "You don't have to repay it. Pretty sister will take care of you." The female lead in a story has a halo, bound to rise swiftly to success, eventually having endless wealth to spend. Yet I wouldn't wait for her repayment, nor did I wish for it. After tending to Charlotte's wound, I took the stage to speak as a distinguished alumna, basking in a shower of flashes. I spoke eloquently, reciting my prepared speech, and received a wave of applause and admiration. Moving the microphone to my lips, I slowly began. "Luna has one more thing to say to everyone. Each of us is a flower bud waiting to bloom, just at different times. Do not let slander and age-old prejudices drown you out." Amidst a sea of thoughtful faces, I caught sight of Charlotte wrapped in bandages. Her eyes were watery, shining as she looked back at me, and we exchanged a knowing smile. Charlotte was instilled with the idea that she should always put others first. Growing up in such a twisted environment and maintaining upright principles was no small feat. Since that speech, I took over the operations of Carter Corp. As the heiress, I was the ultimate authority. I worked diligently, occasionally guiding Charlotte on which companies Carter Corp should invest in and what its future development direction should be. Charlotte's insights were sharp. She pointed out several companies that yielded a 100-fold return. She recommended investing in niche tourism, and I listened to her advice. The project launched with immense popularity. I marveled at her intellect, admitting she was indeed smart. Charlotte always treated me well. Not staying in the dorm, she'd come to see me after classes with meals. Because of cancer, my complexion grew paler, my stomach empty and unable to eat. Strangely, I couldn't stomach anything else, but I could take a few bites of what Charlotte brought. One night, after I finished my evening routine and was about to go to bed, I found Charlotte sleeping on the sofa. I sighed at her lack of self-care, covering her with a pink blanket. My gaze was suddenly drawn to the open laptop, and its search history left me in a stupor. Recipes for light and delicious food. What does it mean when your face is pale and you can't eat? Is it normal for a girl in her 20s to lose weight quickly? Just as I was pondering, Charlotte stirred awake. Through sleepy eyes, she instinctively shut the laptop. I opened my mouth, unsure of what to say, and after a long while I spoke softly. "You don't have to do this. I won't be around much longer, and there's no need for Charlotte to waste her precious years on me. She's already endured too much during the time she should be focusing on her studies." Charlotte gripped my hand, contradicting me for the first time. "But I want to." The warmth from her hand spread to my heart. I couldn't articulate the feelings. The female lead of the novel had more than beauty and intelligence. Her kindness and gratitude were magnetic. No wonder Ethan Hartley, who tormented her, eventually fell for her. She had that charm. Ethan Hartley. I suddenly thought of him, and a surge of pain and sourness filled my heart. Absently, I told Charlotte, "You go to sleep," then walked upstairs with unsteady steps. I lay in bed, restless, as lightning tore through the sky. A gentle breeze brought a light rain. I shivered in bed. These days, I had been avoiding Ethan Hartley, gradually fading from his line of sight to spare him the downfall depicted in the novel after my death. Ethan, my brilliant young man, should stand at the top of the world looking down upon everyone. But the heart is flesh and blood. With the end near, the ties of childhood friendship pulled at me, and I found myself wanting to see him one last time. My vision blurred with tears as I reminisced about our childhood moments. Why does fate play such cruel tricks? My phone lit up. A WeChat message from Ethan stood out. "Luna, I miss you." Just 6 words, but they tore at my heart. Ethan, born into a privileged family, a piano prodigy, had won world-class awards by 19. But in my dream, after my death, he became cold and distant, never touching the piano again, and after taking over the family business, he worked relentlessly. In just 3 years, he turned the Hartley Group into the leading corporation in the capital. Everyone praised his remarkable skills, but only I knew how brittle my boy was. He would caress our photo late at night until tears streamed down his cheeks. I picked up my phone and arranged to meet Ethan at a private cinema, then drifted off amidst overwhelming emotions. The next morning, after a hasty breakfast, I headed to the private cinema we had agreed upon. As I arrived, I saw the exquisitely featured, gentle Ethan Hartley waiting for me. The world around us is hushed and serene, a testament to the passage of time. Emotions I struggle to contain well up inside me again. After I push them back down, I move towards him and say, "Ethan, you always come so early for our dates." Ethan Hartley's gentle eyes crinkle with amusement. Would I dare to be late when meeting with our Miss Luna Carter? The fog that had clouded my heart instantly lifts, and I sit down beside him. When it's time to choose a movie, I intentionally pick a sad romance. As the film reaches the scene where the heroine dies and the hero lives out his days in solitude, I say casually, "If I were gone, Ethan, you must live well, marry, and have children. I don't want you to mourn me. I want you forever proud and spirited." Even if Ethan ends up with Charlotte in my dreams, I wouldn't hold it against him. How could I be so selfish as to condemn him to a life of solitude? I hope someone is there for him, not that he lives each day as a walking corpse, numbing himself with work. Ethan's grip on my hand suddenly tightens. His body seems to be encased in a thin layer of ice that sends shivers down my spine. After a long pause, he speaks in a hoarse voice. "Luna, you're still young. Don't make such jokes." I let out a scoff, stand up, and pull him into a tight embrace as if a person submerged in cold water has found a piece of driftwood, precious beyond measure. Don't be mad. I just said it without thinking. Later, Ethan and I go shopping together. When we pass by a doll store, I stop in my tracks. Usually not one to care for such trinkets, I drag Ethan inside and we begin to meticulously choose a design. Sunshine bathes our faces as we focus on our painting, and time seems to stand still. I don't want to think about anything else but to focus on my last date with Ethan. After saying goodbye to Ethan, when I return home, the night is cold, with a crescent moon hanging high and tiny stars sprinkling light onto the ground. I open the door, but Charlotte isn't sitting on the couch as usual, looking up to greet me with eyes full of joy. I try calling out, "Charlotte?" but there's no response. A sense of unease bubbles up inside me, and I call Uncle Watson on my phone. "Use all your connections. Help me find someone." As the clock hands move from 9 to 10, I look out the large windows to see snowflakes gently descending in the piercing cold wind. Meanwhile, there's still no word from Charlotte. Suddenly, my phone lights up. It's an address from Uncle Watson. "Miss, we found her here. She seems to be frightened, and we didn't dare to get close." I immediately throw on a coat, get into my private car, and hurry to find Charlotte. Once there, Uncle Watson's men have filled the dark alley, yet all stand still, not daring to approach. I walk over slowly but freeze in place, as my rising anger is hard to control. I see Charlotte sitting in the corner, scantily clad, gripping a blood-stained utility knife. I reach out to her in the dim light, my voice gentle. "Charlotte, it's me, Luna Carter." She looks up slowly, her eyes red with lingering fear. In the quiet night, a clatter rings out as the knife falls to the ground. She apologizes with remorse. "Sister, I seem to have caused you trouble again." I embrace her tightly. "Who did this?" Charlotte reveals everything. Jack James, pampered and arrogant, looked down on her solitary nature and had sent people to corner her, aiming to ruin her. In desperation, she stabbed Jack with the utility knife, and only then did his cronies scatter like birds and beasts. I gently stroke the young girl's frail back. "Jack James? He's hardly any trouble." The James family, while wealthy in the capital, lack true foundation and are upstarts. The Carter family has been in business for 3 generations, with global ventures. The James family had never caught my attention. After bringing Charlotte home, I comfort her and call Dr. Thompson to check on her. Knowing she's all right, I finally relax and sigh. Life really is tough for the protagonist. Wherever she goes, she faces exclusion and harm. The next morning, when Charlotte goes to class at Duke University, I follow her. She's dressed simply in a white long sleeve with a striking red coat, looking radiant. As expected, just as we enter the school, a girl approaches with a look of disgust. She speaks harshly. "Charlotte, you've got some nerve, injuring a classmate. Jack's family has already been notified and they will seek justice. Prepare to be expelled and end up in jail." Her arrogant voice freezes upon seeing me, her expression turning rigid. I feign confusion and prompt her, "Go on, why did you stop talking?" I know her. Jennifer Smith, a counselor from Duke University, comes from a comfortably off family, but is extremely selfish and materialistic. Previously, I never bothered with her, but now that she's involving Charlotte... Well, Jennifer's attitude does a swift 180, and in a quiet voice she says, "Luna, Charlotte seems to have had an altercation with Jack and needs to go to the principal's office." I raise an eyebrow. "Mind your manners. My parents only had one child." Then, I take Charlotte by the arm and head straight for the principal's office, following the path from memory. Along the way, the students bright as the morning sun add life to Duke University. But within them, a few hide beastly hearts beneath human faces, outrageously so. Upon reaching the principal's office, a vicious voice can be heard. "Charlotte Dodge, armed with a knife, intent on harming someone. How can Duke University keep such a person?" The James family has filed a lawsuit. A legal notice will soon reach Charlotte. I push the door open and enter, casting my gaze around the room, a slight smile on my lips. Such nonsense, twisting the truth, the arrogance of the James family. Jack James tries to get up in a rage, but inadvertently pulls at his wound, crying out in pain on the couch. I find the noise grating, my eyes fixing on the man who had just spoken, Jack's father, Richard James. The lawsuit comes. We'll go to court. The Carters are ready anytime. My words are calm, but drop like a heavy stone in a river, causing ripples. Richard James looks away guiltily. We didn't realize Charlotte knew you, Mrs. Carter. Jack's injury isn't serious. We can settle this privately. Having been in the Capitol for years, Richard James knows he cannot afford to offend the Carters. He glares at Jack covertly, as if blaming his son for stirring up trouble. Jack's face also shows confusion. I understand now why, despite me showing clear protection for Charlotte from the beginning of the school year, someone still dared to target her. Perhaps it's because I've been unwell recently and haven't been able to stay with Charlotte. Some people harbored ill intentions. As I remain silent, Richard James forces a smile. Charlotte injured our Jack. If she apologizes, let's not make a big deal out of it. They're just kids, and this can be let go. I look at him with mocking eyes. Let me make one thing clear. It was Jack who cornered Charlotte, aiming to ruin her. Is it wrong for Charlotte to defend herself? I think not. This matter, I want to blow it up. We'll see each other in court tomorrow, my word. Jack, who had been quiet, suddenly speaks out bitterly. Charlotte always walks with her head down, putting on an aloof front that disgusts me. That's why I cornered her. With the harshest tone, he utters the most shameless words. Whatever faults Charlotte's personality might have, it doesn't excuse his bullying. I'm about to retort when Charlotte holds my hand, her voice faint. Sister, let's just let it go. I look at her incredulously, take a deep breath, and reply patiently, It's fine, I don't mind the hassle. If we let this slide, those who randomly target Charlotte in the future will only increase. Charlotte is naive to the world and doesn't understand the principle of making an example to ward off others. I toss a final word at Jack. If you feel wronged, save it for the court. I then lead Charlotte out, leaving the James family anxious. After all, the Carter family's lawyers are renowned worldwide, never losing a court case, known as the perennial winners of the Capitol. And since Jack was at fault from the start, they were powerless. Once Charlotte's class is over, I time it perfectly to buy her favorite milk tea and wait quietly in my sports car outside Duke University. Charlotte sees me and immediately rushes over, calling, Sister. I open the car door. Get in. Let's go for a drive. Silent throughout the ride, the subdued sunlight and the chilly winter breeze create a calm yet pleasant atmosphere. I park the car at a scenic spot and hand Charlotte her milk tea. Let's get out. We walk together, Charlotte sipping her milk tea, surrounded by mountains, draped in lush greenery, breathing in the fresh air. This is Duke Forest. Unlike other mountains that can be tiring to climb, it's more suited for relaxation. At the summit, Charlotte looks down to see a vista shrouded in mist enveloping the peaks, adding a touch of mystery and a sense of superiority. I speak up. The Carters have donated 3 libraries, 2 cafeterias, and a dormitory to this university. You have no reason to feel inferior. Jack said she carried a cold air about her, head down on campus when in fact, she's just too shy to talk to others. With her background of poverty, humility is ingrained, not by choice. Charlotte's eyes are rimmed with red as she says, Okay, thank you, sister. The sunlight breaks through the mist, warming the girl enveloped in its glow, a picture of vitality and warmth. After that day, in court, Jack received a 1-year sentence for attempting to bully a fellow student. My coughing up blood worsens and my complexion turns pale as snow. Top doctors from home and abroad have all said I won't survive the winter.